All right. What's going on? We're live. I think we're good to go here. I got my microphone, which should be working. If you're joining the video, please let me know that you can hear me all right and the microphone's working. And we got a good topic here today as well. We're going to be talking about why pretty much everybody who loses any significant amount of weight, let's call it 20 pounds or more, ends up losing muscle. Some of that weight ends up being muscle. And I've coached hundreds of guys over the years, and pretty much everybody wants to lose fat while either building muscle or maintaining muscle. So, this is something that the vast majority of people want to work on. But the truth is, most people don't do that. Most people, like I said, end up losing muscle while losing overall total weight. And I'm going to go over why that is. There's a number of key reasons why most people lose muscle when they're in a weight loss phase or weight loss journey. And I'm going to tell you what you can do to avoid that, because it's not inevitable. It's not an automatic thing that you just have to lose muscle while you are losing fat. In an interesting way, though, the whole rise of GLP-1s is sort of exposing this to the world. So everyone's freaking out about GLP-1s at how, most people who use them end up losing muscle, and people are going crazy thinking that, saying that it's the GLP-1's fault that they target muscle and they specifically make you lose it, which really isn't the case at all. The GLP-1s just suppress your appetite, and they're exposing the fact that pretty much everybody loses muscle when they lose a lot of weight. And that goes for people who are off GLP-1s just as much as people who are on GLP-1s. So it's not a GLP-1 thing. It's been happening all along. And those of us specifically in the physique and body composition area of fitness, right? There's trainers who have expertise in all sorts of different areas: endurance, body composition, fat loss and muscle gain, mobility, flexibility. Those of us who are, expertise is in body composition, we've known this for a long time. And GLP-1s are just kind of exposing it. So let's dive into the first and main, most common reason why somebody who's losing weight will lose muscle as well. And it's because they're not strength training. And they're not strength training at all. Like, you're certainly going to lose muscle if you're not strength training at all. It doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter what else you do. Like, you could be a healthy 30-year-old male and lose muscle if you don't strength train, if it's not part of your weekly routine and weekly life. Um, Now they do show that older people are even more at risk of this, right? If a healthy 30-year-old is not strength training versus, a mostly healthy 60 or 70-year-old, generally the 60 or 70-year-old might lose muscle quicker, but the 30-year-old will still lose muscle. Like, if I stopped strength training at 32 years old, 100% I would lose muscle, even though I'm a healthy, fit right now male. I would lose muscle 100% with no doubt. So that's the requirement essentially to prevent muscle loss. Initially, the most obvious and easy thing you can do is make sure you're strength training. I would say at least 2 to 3 times a week. And now two is like you're at the very bare minimum. You still might lose muscle based on if you're doing a bunch of other things or not doing a bunch of other things that I'm going to talk about. But I would say, to be safe, you should probably strength train 3 times a week, as kind of a rule in life, or a habit in life. Now, one layer further than that is, are you strength training properly? Are you doing random shit that you find on YouTube? Are you doing random swipe workouts you find on TikTok or Instagram? Are you, those are probably like the, the the worst of the bunch, right? If you're doing workouts, if you're following, but they're just that random, you just find them on social media and they have nothing to do with you. That's probably like worst case, other than just doing random stuff that you make up in your head or that you uh, see at the gym, following nothing and just kind of making stuff up in your head when you're a beginner and you don't really know much. That is, again, it's like not strength training anywhere near as optimally or properly as you could. And then the next level above that is like maybe you've downloaded some app, or maybe you're paying some small amount, like $20 a month, for some app that provides workouts. Again, like that has nothing to do with you. It's not customized to you. There was no coach or professional who put together those workouts for you. There's tens of thousands, if not millions, of other people doing the same exact routine. There might be a 72-year-old woman doing the same exact routine as you, or someone in a totally different situation doing the same exact routine as you. And this is why these apps and these really cheap options that just spit out workouts for people have a very low success rate. If you're an advanced trainee and you can adjust it to your needs and your injury history and your goals and stuff like that, great. But if you're a beginner or an intermediate, or you're fairly new to it, it's a very low success rate and it's a very high turnover. Like I've know people in the industry who have apps like this, and they say that every single month people are quitting it and asking to cancel because it's a very low success rate, because there's no support, no guidance. It's not actually customized to you. So again, it's still, at least you're following still some sort of a program. Uh, of course, if it's totally inappropriate for you, it could drastically raise the likelihood that you get injured. That's another story. But this is just the idea of strength training properly. Ideally, you want a structured routine that hits each muscle group at least once in the week. If you're being super optimal about it, maybe it's twice in the week. So that means you would have 2 days in the week where you hit chest, 2 days in the week where you hit shoulders, 2 days in the week where you hit back, 2 days in the week where you hit quads, 2 days in the week where you hit hamstrings, glutes, and so on and so on, right? So what that might look like if you're working out 3 days a week is upper body, lower body, full body, right? That hits each muscle group twice in the week. Or if you're working out 4 times per week, what that might look like is upper body, upper body, upper, lower. But again, like I said, even if you're hitting each muscle group 1 time in the week, that is at least a reasonable place to start. What I mean by hitting each muscle group 1 time in the week, what I'm essentially saying is your routine isn't just doing 100 push-ups every day and that's your strength training. I had somebody mention that on social media the other day, like, oh, I just do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups every day. It's like, okay, great. Um, that's a horrible routine, right? Like, so you're doing nothing for the back, zero for the back. So you're going to lose muscle in the back, but maybe maintain it in your chest. You're doing nothing for the legs. There's so many big muscle groups in the legs: quads, hamstrings, glutes. You're doing nothing for that. You're doing nothing for the rear delts. You're doing nothing for the biceps or the shoulder, right? It's like push-ups and sit-ups every day is nowhere near a routine I would recommend to someone who's trying to maintain muscle. Uh, is it a bad thing to do 100 push-ups if you're traveling and you're in a hotel? No, of course. Like, if that's not your actual routine, there's nothing wrong with just doing some push-ups or sit-ups or something to be active, but you should have an actual routine that doesn't neglect muscle groups. Because when we neglect muscle groups, that's where we're going to lose muscle, in those neglected muscle groups. So you can train biceps every day or train biceps every week, but if you don't train legs, you're going to lose muscle in your legs. You see what I mean? If you don't train, or if you only do leg press and you don't really train glutes much, you could very well be losing muscle in the muscle groups you actually don't train, glutes in this case, and gaining some muscle in your quads. So again, it needs to be a balanced and structured routine that actually makes sense because as I'm explaining now, you can very well be someone who works out every week and you're not doing it properly or not on a proper routine. So you actually lose muscle in some areas. This is super common, super common. So yeah. So first thing is you need to be strength training every week. I recommend 3 times or more per week. And then secondly, you've got to actually be following a proper routine that doesn't neglect muscle groups. You can't be doing 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups a day and expect that you're going to maintain muscle in your back and your legs and your shoulders and all the other muscle groups that you're neglecting. The third thing about the training is that you actually have to train hard. Uh, you actually have to train a little bit out of your comfort zone and you have to make most sets pretty challenging. So, and I'm just trying to set proper expectations here. You can't go into the gym or go into your workouts at home and just kind of go through the motions and stop the second it gets a little bit hard. And you need to actually be striving to make progress and striving to get stronger. So, we're never going to increase the weight every time we work out, but you have to sort of have that mindset of trying to. Because if we look at every exercise you're doing across your routine, if you're doing the exact same weight for the exact same amount of reps as you were 6 months ago across all your exercises, there was like no progress made. Uh you're you know there's a chance you could still lose some muscle, depending on nutritional factors, right? So again, there's layers to this. So you do actually have to train hard. You should really be training each set. You really should push until you're out of your comfort zone. Like if you stop at the slightest feeling of discomfort, that's not the way to train if you're really trying to maintain muscle. So if you're stopping at an even, these are just examples. If you're stopping at an even 10 reps every single time, that's an example of like you're not pushing yourself because no one will stop at an even 10 reps every time if they're actually striving to do as much as they can. Like never once do you stop at 11. Like you couldn't get 11 reps with that or 12 reps or 13 reps. Like if you're never stopping at those odd numbers, like you just barely squeezed out 7 reps or 9 reps or 11 or 12 or 13 or 17, if that's never happened with you, you're not training properly. You're not training hard enough because you've never strived out of your comfort zone. If you can always stop at a nice even round number, that's not a good sign for getting stronger or maintaining muscle. Certainly not for building muscle. I wouldn't bet money on you building muscle if you're doing 10 reps every time. You've never once squeezed out 11 reps. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if you're watching, if that makes sense to you, and if I explain that decently enough. But that's the training side of what's important. Those 3 layers. What's the most important with someone who wants to maintain muscle while they are losing fat? Or even it's the same as if someone who wants to even build some muscle while you're losing fat, because that is very much possible if you're doing these things right. Okay. So that's the training side of it. Now there is a nutrition component to it as well. There's um, reasons on the nutrition side why people would lose muscle as they're losing overall weight and losing body fat. The first one and the main one is protein intake. All right, they're not eating enough protein, and this is a big one. This is a super common one, right? And it's an obvious one too. Just like someone who's not strength training at all, it's an obvious one. Like if you're not strength training at all, if it's not part of your life, and like every single week, if you're not doing some workouts, it's kind of obvious you're gonna lose muscle, right? Like, yeah, duh. If you don't work out, you're gonna maintain or build muscle. Like you're definitely gonna lose it. The same goes for protein. Like protein is needed to build and maintain muscle. So if you're eating very little protein, uh, that's the recipe for losing muscle, right? Like that. If you were to ask me, what should I do if I want to lose muscle? Don't work out and eat very low amounts of protein. Like under 100 grams of protein for adult men is like that range, right? There's some people who, if you're under 100 grams of protein, it's not a good place to be, right? Um, but of course, everyone's different and everyone, could aim for a different amount based on their build, based on their activity levels, based on how much they work out, based on their goals and everything like that. Generally, so like a good bare minimum is like uh, zero point 0.7 times your goal body weight as far as protein intake. So grams of protein per day, like zero point 0.7 times your goal body weight. And again, that's the absolute bare minimum that I would aim for if you're trying to maintain muscle while losing fat. For 0% of clients do I actually prescribe that amount because my clients aren't trying to aim for the bare minimum. My clients aren't, you know, working out twice a week and doing the bare minimum with protein and doing the bare, like, they're serious about it, right? It's something that's important to them. They want to see really good results. So usually for them, what I'm doing is recommending somewhere in the range of 1 times their lean body mass. And that's the amount of protein they'll eat per day, which usually ends up being, um, it depends on how lean they are, right? It depends on their body composition currently and their goals, but it ends up being certainly a higher protein diet. So yeah, that's an important part of all this, like especially if you're losing weight, if you're in a weight loss phase, which means you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to want to eat a higher amount of protein in order to give you the best possible chance at maintaining muscle. All right, and that's the problem with a lot of these people who are using GLP-1s as a crutch. First of all, GLP-1s have been amazing for a lot of people. Like they've helped a lot of people lose weight and get to a healthier weight range. So I'm not like totally against them based on what we know about them now. And they can be incredibly helpful and life changing for a lot of people. But there's also a lot of people out there who I've seen and heard are essentially just using it as a crutch, right? They don't practice proper habits. Um, they have no idea how to eat and they have no plan with eating. They're not eating enough protein. They're not tracking their food. They're not even eating healthy. They're just using the GLP-1s as a crutch to not be as hungry. So they're eating less. But even when they're eating, they're still eating junk food and fast food and things that aren't great. And they're certainly not working out, strength training, or on a program or working with a coach. Like, unfortunately, a lot of the people using the GLP-1s are in fact doing these things. They're using it as a complete crutch and they're not actually building habits and routines for life as far as working out, as far as being healthy, as far as eating healthy, as far as tracking their food. And then that's why most people gain the weight back after is these people who aren't building the right habits anyway. But on the flip side of that, there's people using the GLP-1s who are in fact doing the right things. They are working out. It is a habit of theirs. They are trying to eat healthy. They are trying to have a plan with eating. Maybe they're tracking their food. So, and it all depends on these habits, right? On your long term success. It all depends on if you can strength train at least 3 times a week forever, right? Like if you're in your 60s, you should be strength training 3 times a week. If you're in your 70s, you should be strength training 3 times a week. If you're in your 80s, you should be strength training 3 times a week. Now, of course, an 80-year-old's strength training program is going to look a lot different than a 30-year-old's, right? I'm not saying we all have to strength train the same way, but we all have to work on strengthening our muscles or maintaining our muscle and strength because that helps with staying durable. That helps with maintaining a better bone density, believe it or not. So if an 80-year-old falls down, they're less likely to break a bone if that person strength trains, right? A lot of older people fall and break bones, and that's it for them. If you strength train, you'll be less likely for that to be it for you. You'll be less likely for that. You'll be less likely to break bones and get injured and have to remain sedentary and not do things you enjoy, because you'll be more durable. All right. So there's so many important reasons why we should try to maintain muscle and strength as we get older. And it starts when you're younger, right? So hope that makes sense. The nutrition side of it, like I said, the protein is the number one thing that you need to look at as far as maintaining muscle. You really need to be eating a higher protein diet, or really should aim to. That's going to give you the best chance. The second thing, the second layer on the nutrition side, is the amount of total food that you're eating. So this is a big mistake that people make, is they eat little to no food. They essentially starve themselves. They eat very few calories per day, like 1,200 calories per day, or 1,300 or 1,400 calories, or 1,000 calories per day, because everyone's in the quick fix mindset. Everyone wants to lose weight as fast as possible. And they think starving themselves, eating under 1,500 calories, is going to help them lose weight as fast as possible. And it may in the short term, but because you're low on resources, it gives you a higher likelihood of losing muscle too, because you have less resources, which, by the way, one of those resources is protein. If you're only eating 1,200 calories a day or 1,300 calories a day, uh, that's also less protein that you have allocated in your day, right? So what makes up your calories are proteins, carbs, and fats. So if you're only eating 1,500 calories a day or 1,200 calories a day, that's less of all the macros that you can eat. That's less protein you have. That's less carbs. That's less fats. So the the lower you eat in calories, the more aggressively low and strict you eat in calories, the more likely you are to lose muscle. All right. So if you are trying to lose weight, that's why it's in your best interest, if you also care about maintaining muscle, to eat in a more of a modest or moderate calorie deficit. So instead of eating 1,200 calories or 1,300 calories, what typically we recommend is eat 500 calories below your maintenance, which is not 1,200. If you're, by the way, if you're an adult male, that is not 1,200 calories or 1,300 calories or 1,400 calories. Almost every adult male can lose weight eating 17 or 1,800 calories on the low end, unless you're like 5'1", 5'2", 5'3". Then you can make the argument that, all right, this is a smaller person who may actually need 1,500 calories. But if you're 5'5" or above, or like, you can certainly lose weight eating 1,700 or 1,800 calories per day as an adult male who's working out. All right, and if you don't believe me in that, I would challenge you in the idea that you are probably eating more than you think. You're missing something. You're eating more than you realize if you think you have to eat 1,500 calories or less to lose weight. You don't have to believe me, but I've coached like over 500 people. Like, this isn't new to me. Like, I haven't just done this myself. I've done it with tons of other men of all ages, of all heights and weights. Like, I've worked with guys who are 5'3". I've worked with guys who are, 5'10" or 6'4". Like, this is like very, very common for me. I've seen it all. So the sample size I've seen is probably more than the sample size you've seen, or just yourself. Maybe it's a sample size of one. It's just yourself. So yeah, that's what I would say in regards to how much you're eating. So, like we said, there's layers as far as maintaining muscle on the training side of things. These are the layers on the nutrition side of what's important to maintain muscle. Number one is the protein. Making sure you're eating a higher protein diet. Number two is the total calories, making sure you're not eating unnecessarily low amounts of food and that you're actually eating more of a moderate calorie deficit no more than 500 calories below your maintenance. For most men, that's going to be like you're not going below 1,700 calories pretty much, or 1,600 calories as an adult male. I've prescribed no clients 1,500 calories in my 12 years of coaching. I've prescribed exactly zero male clients 1,500 calories or lower. I think 1,600 was like the lowest I've ever gone for an adult male client, and we've never had trouble getting anybody to lose weight who is consistent with their eating. Um, so yeah, that's layer two is total food. Now layer three is is about carbs. All right, because this is another huge mistake people make. People are following diets that entail eliminating carbs or eliminating when we think of eliminating whole food groups, it's pretty much always carbs. And the reason why that is going to put you at a more likely position of losing muscle is because, believe it or not, carbs play an important role in maintaining muscle and strength too. Not the same amount as protein. Protein's more important, but carbs are certainly important when it comes to maintaining muscle and strength because, first of all, carbs are the preferred fuel source for the body for working out, for training, for exercise. So if you eliminate carbs, generally you're going to have worse quality workouts because your body's not grabbing from the preferred fuel source for that workout. So you're going to have lower quality workouts. Almost certainly, you're going to be glycogen and carb depleted. So glycogen stores in your muscles are going to be depleted because those come to your muscles through carbs. So that helps with muscle performance and output and stuff like that. So yeah, the quality of your workouts will be worse, which isn't beneficial. Like if you're having consistently worse quality workouts or getting a little bit weaker in your workouts, that's not a good recipe for maintaining muscle or building muscle, right? So that's the first direct link of eliminating carbs, of why it's bad for muscle and performance, is because that's the preferred energy and fuel source. Um, that yeah, and that's the main reason. I thought I had a second reason there. I'm sure I'm forgetting something about it, but um, that's kind of the main thing. Is like if you are eating no carbs and then you incorporate carbs into your diet, you're going to be more likely to have better quality workouts, and you're going to be more likely to get stronger, and you're going to be more likely to have more energy, and you're going to be more likely to maintain or build muscle. All right. Let me know in the comments if that makes sense, if you're watching this. And that's why, if you have any goals around maintaining or building muscle or getting stronger, I'm never going to recommend a diet like keto or carnivore or any sort of, you know, diet where carbs are eliminated or you're eating a very low amount. Like there's pretty much no reason to eat under 100 grams of carbs per day if you care about muscle. There's essentially no reason. Um, and again, this is coming from somebody who my expertise in the fitness industry is in the men's physique and body composition realm, right? My expertise is helping men to really optimize their body composition and their physique. So the amount of muscle mass they have to fat mass. Not every trainer uh, knows about that. The average trainer who gets certified, even through the best certifications like NASM and stuff like that, you don't learn any of that. You learn about how to put together a workout routine for a general population, and that you don't neglect any muscle groups, right? You're like, oh, I have to add in a back exercise, and I have to add in a chest. So they can put together a very basic workout program, and they can probably explain to you why whole foods are good and why you should limit processed foods, but they're not going to know about macronutrients at a high level. They're not going to know how to prescribe macros to clients. We have to learn that separately. We have to learn that on our own, whether it's through hiring our own coaches, investing in additional programs, or certifications or courses, or we have to do endless hours of our own research. And that's how I learned through competing in men's physique competitions, where I had to hire my own coaches to coach me to get as shredded as humanly possible. And that's where I learned through these other more experienced coaches how to set up proper macros, what kind of macros made sense for somebody who is trying to minimize body fat to as little as possible while trying to keep as much muscle as possible. I certainly didn't learn that through my NASM certification or my ISSA certification or any of the other certifications I did. I can't even remember how many I did at this point. You don't learn shit from any of those things. You learn anything helpful from any of those things. You just get, legally, now you're allowed to help someone or coach someone. So where was I even going with that? Yeah, that's um this is like setting up your training and nutrition for these specific goals of optimizing body composition. Fat mass to muscle mass is something that, for me, is an area that I'm most confident in my coaching experience, and I would consider, more of like an expertise of mine. And these are the areas or the layers on the training side and the nutrition side that make the most difference in doing that. And like I said before, um, th- the vast majority of people who lose any significant amount of weight end up losing muscle because they're not hitting one or more of these boxes. Usually, it's multiple of these boxes. And it's very simple. Not strength training almost guarantees you're going to lose muscle. And most people aren't strength training. That's it right there. Most people don't lose weight, uh, are not strength training. Now, I think more people are probably strength training now than they were 20 years ago or before the internet, before social media. I'd be willing to bet more people are strength training now, but there's still 8 billion people on Earth. And in America, there's still 70% of our population is overweight. So I think it's safe to say that most people probably aren't taking care of themselves well, probably aren't super active, probably aren't working out. And then there's probably many people who are out of shape and in that 70% who are overweight who are working out, but they're just not doing the right things on the nutrition side. And that's why they're overweight. And that's why, even if they do lose weight, they might lose muscle as well. So again, it's very, very common for people who lose 15 or 20 or more pounds to lose muscle. While they do that, it happens almost every time. Um, Now, again, that's for the average person. If you were to take the population of people who are losing weight through the guidance of a professional, that's way different. Okay, that's way different. They're almost always having a plan on the nutrition and the training side that gives them the best possible chance at keeping muscle. They're being told how much protein to eat. They're being told exactly what workouts to do in a structured way, and they're being encouraged to push themselves and get stronger. And that's why I think most clients that I work with are able to maintain muscle while losing fat. And even there's dozens of examples of guys who have even gained a little bit of muscle. We're talking about a few pounds, gained a few pounds of muscle while losing 15, 20, 30 pounds of body fat. And we have the DEXA scans to prove it because they're doing all these things right. Not only are they not missing many of these things, they're doing all these things right. They're eating the right amount of protein. They're strength training, not twice a week. They're not doing the bare minimum. They're doing it with a proper program that's optimally set up. And they're trying to get stronger. They're trying to push themselves and they're trying to push out of their comfort zone. So they're doing all these things and all these layers right under the proper guidance and under accountability and coaching and support and a second set of eyes on everything that they're doing to ensure that they're actually doing it right. So my bet would be those who do a fat loss phase with professional guidance and support are, you know, way less likely to lose muscle compared to the average person who's almost certainly guaranteed to lose muscle while they're losing weight. I hope that makes sense. And the last thing I'll say about losing muscle is that generally the or two final points that are important. Um, Generally, the faster you lose weight, the more likely you are to lose muscle. So they say about you can lose about 1% of your total body weight in actual fat per week. So that means if you weigh 200 pounds, you can lose about 2 pounds of fat per week, maybe a little bit more, right? Maybe you can lose 3 pounds of fat, but it's generally in that range. Um, so that means the heavier you are, the more fat you have to lose. So if you're 300 pounds, you can lose 3 or maybe 4 pounds of fat per week. But there's people who are trying to lose way more than that, right? The average 200-pound man, uh, if they can lose up to 2 pounds of fat per week, there's 200-pound men out there who are trying to lose 4, 5, 6 pounds per week. And again, they're in this quick fix mindset, thinking if they want to lose weight as fast as possible to show that it's working. So they lose 5 pounds in a week. But what they, I guess, don't realize is that if you can only lose those 2 pounds of fat per week, what's the other 2 pounds that you lost? What's the other 3 pounds, 4 pounds that you lost that week? It's a combination of water weight and maybe they lost a pound of muscle as well. All right. So the faster you lose weight, the more likely it is that some of that weight is muscle. Limited amount of fat you can lose in a given week. So I hope that makes sense. And that's why doing it under professional guidance and coaching and support and tracking progress properly makes it more likely that we're going to keep muscle. Because what I do is I try to help my clients make sure they're losing at an appropriate weight. I'm sorry, losing an fat per week at an appropriate rate for fat loss. So for most people, we are aiming for that 1 to 2 pounds of total weight loss per week because we know that if we lose between 1 and 2 pounds per week, the likelihood that it's mostly fat loss is high. All right. So that's a one way we can using data, using calculations, using progress tracking. We can sort of be in more control of um, trying to keep muscle or give ourselves the best chance at keeping muscle based on the rate of weight loss. All right. Let me know if that makes sense and if you understood that. Um, the last thing I'll mention about muscle loss is that the leaner somebody gets, generally, the more likely they are to lose muscle. And I recently had a client who last year in 2025 got super lean, got more shredded and lean than 99%. And that's not an exaggeration. He got more shredded and more lean than 99% of men will ever get in their entire lives. This guy could have stepped on stage in a men's physique competition, and he's in his 50s. He's that shredded and like visible abs, like vascularity, definition. Uh, the vast majority, it's probably higher. It's probably like 99.9% of men will never get to that level of body composition. He's probably like 9 or 10% body fat. Um, and we got to a point, and this happens with me as well when I compete for a men's physique show, where if we kept losing weight, if we kept getting leaner, the likelihood that he would lose muscle is even greater because there's less fat to lose. There's almost no fat left to lose. And being in a deficit for longer and longer and longer and getting leaner and leaner, like the lower body fat percentage you get, the more the risk is of losing some muscle. Um, so hope that makes sense. And like a good comparison is like going back to like the heavier person. Someone who's 300 pounds is way less likely to lose muscle in a calorie deficit because there's so much fat. They've got like 100 pounds of fat ready and available to be lost. So if they're in a deficit, they're going to lose that body fat first, assuming that they're strength training and doing all the things right. So they've got tons of excess fat to lose. Whereas someone who's like 8% body fat, 9% body fat, 10% body fat has very little fat left to lose. And if they're just constantly in a deficit, at some point they're going to end up losing muscle. All right. Hope that makes sense. We've got someone who said they can relate here in the chat. Thank you for that. Let me know if you guys have any questions about this topic, about losing muscle, about what you can do or should be doing as far as nutrition or training, or any personal questions you have about this topic or about your fitness in general. Feel free to leave them in the comments. But that's essentially what I wanted to share with you, and go over those layers of the importance of training. First of all, you've got to be, the three layers with strength training for maintaining muscle in a fat loss phase, in case you're just jumping on. Number one is you need to be strength training. So if you're not strength training, you're going to lose muscle. I don't care what age you are, you're going to lose muscle. The next layer after that is you need to be strength training properly. You actually have to have a program or a routine that's structured and balanced, that isn't neglecting any muscle groups. The third layer is you actually have to be training hard. You actually have to be pushing out of your comfort zone and pushing close to failure. You don't have to train till absolute failure every time, but you should be getting close to failure. You shouldn't be stopping at an even 10 reps every time. You should squeeze out an 11th rep or a 13th rep or a 17th rep, even if it's hard. Those last several reps you do in every set need to be noticeably hard. You need to be making some kind of weird faces while you're lifting. Otherwise, it's not hard enough. That's a good way to gauge it. And then the layers with nutrition that matter for maintaining muscle in a fat loss phase. Number one is protein. We need to generally be eating a higher protein diet to give us the best chance at maintaining muscle. Number two is total food, total calories. We can't be eating 1,200 calories a day as an adult male and expect that we're going to maintain muscle. It's just not enough resources. It's not enough food. You can't be starving yourself. Eat 500 calories below your maintenance level if you want to lose body fat, but don't go any further beyond that. And for most people, for most men out there, there's almost no reason you should be eating under 1,500 calories. There's essentially no adult men I've come across in my 12 years of coaching that I've recommended less than 1,500 calories to, unless you're 5'1", 5'2", and very, very small. Okay. And number three, carbs. Carbs are important. You shouldn't eliminate them completely. You shouldn't be eating like 25 grams of carbs per day or 50 grams of carbs per day. You should be eating over 100 grams of carbs per day if you give any amount of shit about maintaining muscle and strength, because they're the main preferred fuel source for working out. So yeah, they're kind of important for having decent quality workouts. And if you eliminate them, you're going to have lower quality workouts and you're going to be less likely to get stronger. All right. Hope this makes sense. If this was helpful, consider subscribing to my channel. I go live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time with a topic that I think is really helpful and valuable, that I think you should all know on your fitness journey, and I think will help you see better results. And if you want to join my I have an email list where I give out free tips about this stuff every single week, only things that I think can be helpful and practical for you. And there's you could join thousands of other motivated guys on that free email tips list. Feel free to click the link in the description of this video somewhere, and you can join that. And to be honest, I email once a week, maybe, anyway, and it's always something that I think will help you. So feel free to join that. Again, there's thousands of other motivated men who are serious about their health and fitness on that list that you can join. And I'll catch you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.